Hi, Kapil. Thank you for taking my question. Um, my question is around access to one's faculties. In my life, I've experienced moments that I would describe as where things felt effortless and there was just like more of a pure perfection of performance. But most days do not feel like that. I've come to understand that this is due to an expectation that I have, either of some kind of external stimulus or um, result in the future, and a fear around not accomplishing that or receiving that. But in some specific moments that can last a few hours.
So are you going to ask how to get there?
No.
Okay. What's your question?
Why would my fear disappear in those moments? I've studied it very closely, and I found no commonality between.
So here's I'm tend to be giving long answers today for some reason. So, and maybe this will help to lessen questions in the future. So maybe that's good. So you have to understand that you have to understand this, but then again, there's not much you can do about it. Like in the next 5 minutes. So you're saying you have fears, and I've looked into it. Now, imagine there's a coding problem with something, right? And some line of code, and I know nothing about that stuff, but that's just an example. So, but now there's a line of code in a program or something that's wrong. Okay. Now imagine that a person who doesn't know, like me, who doesn't know anything about coding, right, was to try to find the problem, and they said, "Well, I've looked into it, and I haven't figured it out." Okay. Well, of course you haven't figured it out because you're not a coder, right? So in this case, that would be me. Of course I haven't figured it out because I'm not a coder, so I don't even know what line of code is broken, and it could be staring me right in the face, and I wouldn't have any idea, right? So if you look into something in order to find the truth about something, you have to be at a certain level. Otherwise, you don't know what you're looking for. You're going to fall for red herrings. You're not even going to see it if it's there. Like, so now, and that was the one part. And the other part I said was, it's not going to help you in the next 5 minutes. And by that, I meant, but what else can you do? You're doing your best. I mean, which is sincere, right? To look into it. At least you're looking into it. And what else can you do but use what you already have? Right. So, that's true. But having said that, like, you're not going to get help from the universe. Okay, well, since you don't know the whole thing, let me just, no, it's not going to happen, right? It's like if I went to the coding thing, I really wanted to figure out what was wrong with that program, right? Like, I'm not going to just get it and say, oh, well, because I'm really wanting to know and figure this out and fix this problem, the answer should come to me. No, it shouldn't, because I don't have the knowledge and the understanding to know, that craft. So you looking into it and you using your tools, which I fully appreciate and respect and understand, that's all you have. And what else can you look at it with what you have? And that's even doing more than most people who aren't even looking into it. So I mean, there's respect there. Okay. But having said that, it doesn't change the fact that if you don't have the tools right? If you don't have the full understanding, how are you going to come to a bottom? Like, why would you come to the bottom of it? You shouldn't, right? So this is what I mean. Like a lot of these answers that I'm giving are very, very, very overlapping. In some way, they're the same answer, which is that like the knife must be sharp enough for the question to slice the question at hand, right? The knowledge must be keen and developed and deep enough for you to glean the understanding that is necessary. So everything has a minimum required level, right? Everything, you have to have a minimum level of something depending upon the magnitude of the thing that you're trying to accomplish. And if your minimum does not reach the required minimum, then it's going to be very difficult, if not impossible. I'll never say it's totally impossible because nothing's impossible, but I'll just say it's very difficult to impossible to do that. So I'll be honest with you, like I'm very hesitant because it's my nature, right? I'm very hesitant to say, well, you should you know, try and learn the truth and let me help you out. Like I'm not going to do that. I'm just like that's just not who I am. It's not a good thing or a bad thing. But I mean, the fact kind of remains that if you want to be great at coding, you have to devote depending upon how great you want to be, you have to devote your life to that thing and go anywhere and everywhere you have to go, and including outside yourself, including inside yourself, and do your own experience and get your own fundamental knowledge and all those things. And when it comes to the truth, when it comes to figuring out your problems in life, I mean, and when it comes to the mind, when it comes to these internal conflict and fear and anxiety, I mean, coding is a three-piece kindergarten puzzle compared to that. I mean, you're talking like king of the universe type things to figure yourself out, to master yourself. I mean, there's nothing higher. So so it's almost like people come to this, and listen, I fully understand, and I've written about this, but the message doesn't get across, and it's not going to because it's just humans are distracted. So people read my word and think the truth. Oh, that's spirituality, right? And that's because the context in which they've heard truth before has been in the context of spirituality, right? So I fully understand that, but I kind of do things different, right? And for me, the truth has nothing whatsoever to do with spirituality. I mean, spirituality, you might as well go dig ditches. It's the same. Like that's how far removed it is from it. It doesn't matter. It has no relevance to the truth. The truth isn't spiritual for me. It's absolutely relevant and practical. So when they come into this domain of the truth, they think, oh, they should just get it. Oh, well, I'll just do some self-awareness and do some. What they don't understand is when they come into this domain, they're actually going to be required to climb Mount Everest on the steepest face in 140-mile-an-hour winds, crawling with broken knees and no oxygen. Okay, that's what this is. And so the level of knowledge, dedication, determination, focus, willingness, readiness, devotion, obsession, willing to do anything, that's like 475 million times more than any other pursuit in your entire life combined. I mean, you could want to become the best in the NBA, the best in the NFL, the best on the PGA Tour, the best in MLB, right? All in one person in one lifetime. And that would be just a drop in the bucket compared to mastery of the mind. So I'm trying to give you the answer as to why you haven't got the answer, right? You said you looked into it and the fear, and why do I have fear? Even if I was to give you the deepest truth about it, the vessel that's receiving it has to be prepared and readied. And if it's not, it's just words. So that's kind of a comprehensive answer that I can give to your question.
So if I can reiterate at least a portion of that to make sure that I'm understanding it, it's not that the answer isn't there. It's not that the information isn't there. It's that.
What do you mean by there?
I'm not aware.
By there?
Available.
Where?
Possible to understand.
Where?
Nowhere. I can feel my mind trying to answer it. So I
no. But I want to know what you mean. I want to contextually. When you say it's not there, where are you talking about? Is the there?
If
do you mean exists? Is that what you mean by there?
I do mean exists.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. I was just clarifying as to I didn't understand. Yeah. So go ahead.
So it's more of that. It's more of.
Oh no! Absolutely, it exists. Right. The answers. Okay. Yeah. The answers. Like things like what happens after I die and what happened in the 47th lifetime of my life. I don't know. Right? I don't care. Right. And maybe there's some mystic who knows the answer to your 47th lifetime. Maybe there is. Okay. So I can't say that answer doesn't. But all the questions that are relevant to someone's life in this lifetime, like, fear and anxiety and torment and turmoil and failure and all of the things that every human being, suffers from. They're absolutely 100%. Those answers exist absolutely truthfully, and I'll be honest, they're kind of right here at the fingertips. Okay. But like for me to just it's because of this, it won't, that's like giving you a line of code if you're not a coder, right? It won't do anything. And humans are basically stuck. And the reason that they're stuck is because they have all these problems, right? Every human being does, right? But on the one hand, but on the other hand, they don't have the desire, the willingness, the dedication, the level of interest to want to solve all their problems. They don't have that. So they're stuck. So if you had the problems, but you had the, oceanic desire and do whatever you can, whatever you have to do to get the answers, okay, there's a way out. They can become unstuck. But if you have the problem, but you don't have the way to get out of it, then you're stuck. And you're stuck for a lifetime. And so their remedy of dealing with that is to say, well, I don't have the desire required for the truth. So what I'll just do like meditation, and which is fine, but it's not going to get rid of your problems. I mean, you might as well go for a walk and go for a run, and those are fine. I mean, but it's not going to give you what you're looking for on a holistic scale.
Yes, in the past, if I wanted to learn something new about how my mind was working or a way that it was controlling me, I would use a method.
No, but you would have to, because it's all that's available, right?
I have experienced other ways of doing it, and it's usually doesn't take the form of one of those actions. It seems that relying on one of those for consistency never really works out. It always ends up failing, or it doesn't work on a Tuesday, but it works on a Wednesday. Mm-hmm. And then that becomes a game to try to figure that out. But for whatever reason, I do feel that understanding this or learning this skill is worth spending my entire life doing.
But it isn't a skill.
Obviously, I would prefer.
It isn't a skill, right?
Yeah.
It's a wholehearted understanding. It isn't a skill. you can have skills that help you deal with life, to take the edge off of life. That's fine. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about real answers of permanence, solutions of permanence. That isn't a skill. In the same way that it isn't a skill for you to avoid a ditch that you see on your way as you're walking to the park. It isn't a skill that you don't dive into the ditch. It's not a skill, right? You didn't practice not jumping in. You have the understanding that if I jump into that ditch, I'm going to get hurt. It's not good for me. That isn't a skill. You'd have to practice that. That's what it's not a skill. I hate that word. It's not skill is fine for sports and business. That's fine. But I mean, this is not a skill. It gets back to sports psychology and this BS nonsense, spiritual self-help, self-development, garbage. It isn't a skill. It is understanding.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it is how deep and how desirous you are of having those understandings, to which literally transform human lives. I'm not here to convince anyone.